What is going on, guys, gals, non-binary pals? It's your boy Artisan Kane here, and we are doing another TPL OU Tourney recap. Um, this is against Low Ladder is Fear, coach of the SY Slowpokes. Um, we are in the semi, so this is the top four. Winner moves on to the finals. So for this game, to be honest, I didn't want to just bring the same team that I had brought last time, even though it was successful. So I actually asked my buddy Dan, coach of the Toronto Raptors, um, aka the Side Quest League Season 1 champ, to pass me a team, see what he's liked using on the ladder recently. Again, this is before all the Crown Tundra updates and everything, so this is a little bit dated at this point. But we can go through the team here real quick. Lefties Hippo, pretty classic set on it. It's split defensive and special defense though. I like the having toxic on it, and then slack off for recovery and everything. Getting rocks up is always a nice thing to have early in games. Also, Machamp is an interesting pick. Having choice band on there is really cool. Adamant, is even boosting up. It's 130 base attack, and then obviously throwing a choice band on that makes it even harder hitting. And then dynamic punch, obviously, 100 base attack, and it confuses the opponent. That's always nice. So that's basically, just hitting everything super hard. A nice Toxapex here. I love Toxapex. Regenerator going to max defense here. Um, T spikes, scald, knockoff, recover. I always love when Toxapex runs knockoff. I think I've seen that in some of these previous games. Having that knockoff helps, makes Toxapex a little bit more of a utility player and not just a wall there. And then we have Calm Mind, Will-O-Wisp Hex, Corsola. Corsola is really fun to really be annoying. It's very defensive, bulky, especially if it has that Avaya Light. But it can't take the special hits that well. Something to keep in mind. And then we have a Rillaboom set that's more or less on par with what else was going on in the meta at that time. Sword Stance, Glide, Knockoff, and Drain Punch. Last game I ran the what was it? Stomping Tantrum, I think, something like that. A ground coverage move. Because I like that on Rillaboom, but this week we decided to go with Drain Punch over that. And then we have Mantine rocking a Metronome, Manual Rain, and then Hurricanes and Surfs hit like a truck, and then Roost for a little bit of longevity. So this is what Dan passed me. I probably should have done a little bit more testing with it on the ladder before I started this game, just so I was a little bit more familiar with it and everything. But it is what it is, and we can go ahead and start looking at this game. So just a quick left-to-right analysis here. We got Gardevoir, Urshifu, which I anticipate being Urshifu Dark, Togekiss, which is really annoying in any metagame since like Gen 4. Another Rillaboom, not too surprising, it's basically on every team right now. Shuckle, and Volcarona. So Volcarona was a pain in the ass last time. We have a bit more checks to it with this team, since we have stuff like Mantine on it. And the Hippowdon has a little bit more special defense investment than what we ran last time. But the main thing that's kind of a pain looking at this team is Shuckle. If we go back to these move sets, I don't have any hazard control. The only means of like hazard control would have been if we ran defog on Mantine, or something like that. So we've got two setters in having Toxapex and Hippowdon, but we have no means of getting hazards off the field. And when we see Shuckle on the opponent's team, that screams hazards to me. That means we can definitely anticipate something like rocks going up, something like sticky web going up, which will just absolutely destroy whatever type of momentum we're trying to do here. And it's just something really it's tough to come back from, because this team doesn't really deal well with that. So, but beyond that, we try to figure out what we can do here. I'm not too sure what his lead is going to be. Just looking at this, could just be Shuckle to immediately get up hazards and whatnot. But either way, we're going to go with Hippowdon. That way we can get our rocks up as soon as possible. And he actually goes for lead Gardevoir, which is kind of interesting. It's got Trace, so that's really not going to do much. But I wasn't really sure what the Gardevoir was going to do. In all honesty, I should have anticipated what he was going to go for right here, which is the Trick. I should have anticipated Trick Scarf. That really just totally destroys Hippowdon's usage. I mean, really, because now Toxic, Slack Off, all that stuff it makes Hippowdon very difficult to be actually useful. And now we're locked into Toxic, which won't really do us any good. And we see that the Gardevoir is holding leftovers. So the Gardevoir is going to be a pain in the ass to deal with for Hippowdon. So we're just going to have to go ahead and switch out into... we decided to go into Corsola. Obviously, since we don't have this Spadef bulk, we're taking way too much on that. That was probably a bad move on my part. I don't really have too much that can take these Moonblasts nicely outside of like Mantine, so that probably would have been a better switch in, because now we take a whole bunch of damage. We're kind of doing a little bit of a stall with the being able to get a little bit more toxic damage on the Gardevoir, but it's still going to be able to just fire off whatever attacks it wants to if it wants to sit in. So he actually decides to switch into Shuckle, which isn't great. Like I said, we can't really do anything to Shuckle. My plan here was to try to get a Calm Mind up and then try to Strength Sap if the Gardevoir decided to stay in. That way we can get a little bit of recovery going as we Calm Mind up. But now that Shuckle is in, I really don't have anything. I really didn't know what to do. Like I said, I know he's going to want to try to get some hazards up. I don't have any way of preventing it. I decided to go for a Will-O-Wisp there. That way our Hex does more damage. Hex is our only damaging move outside of... No, I think that was it, right? Yeah, Hex was our only damaging move, so we decided to go for a Hex or for a Will-O-Wisp. That way the Hexes will do more damage. But as we're starting to set that up, he's already getting his hazards up. Stealth Rocks being up is absolutely brutal. We decided to go into Machamp here. That way we can try to get off some Dynamic Punch. I know Shuckle's got a stupid defense, so we're just going to try to knock some stuff off. He decides to go for Toxic, which is pretty brutal. It limits Machamp quite a bit in the longevity. And now the Dynamic Punch does nothing. I mean, 44% is brutal when you consider that we're Adamant max attack, and that is a Dynamic Punch that is stat boosted. So that's really tough. So at this point, we kind of just want to hope that some of these confuses go up. But what ends up happening is it's holding a red card, so it actually brings Mantine up. But Mantine is running it's rocking a Metronome and not Boots, so we're looking at a huge chunk of damage right off the bat from these stones. Infestation means that we can't switch out, so what we decide to do is just go for a manual Rain Dance there. That way we can get the rain up and start firing off some Hurricanes. But since he knows we're locked in, he can send off a Toxic and do some of that passive damage from the Toxic and the Infestation as I try to roost for longevity. And there it is, the Sticky Web, which absolutely just sucks. like I said, I don't have any way of getting rid of this. Mantine is my only non-grounded mon if you look at the team. So not having this hazard control is going to make the rest of the game brutal, and we're only at turn 8. So that Chuckle's basically done its part. He can just sack it here at this point, which is exactly what he does. So we're taking that chunk from the Toxic again. Rillaboom comes out, and Rillaboom can just get off a Grassy Glide and do a lot of damage to us. But after the entry hazard plus the Grassy Glide damage, we're down to less than half, which is really bad. We are holding leftovers, so we get a little bit of recovery from that, plus we get the Grassy Terrain recovery. But even if we go for a Grassy Glide here, it's going to outspeed us, and it's going to do a whole chunk of damage as well. So what we decide to do is we decide to SD here, but I forget he's got a whole ass Togekiss in the back, and there's nothing really that this Rillaboom can do to hit that decently. So it kind of scares me out here because I know it can just destroy me with the Air Slash. So we go out into Pex, but it's exactly what I feared when I see Togekiss. Having the moves with the potential to flinch is absolutely terrifying, and he actually misses the T-Wave, which is great, but in the long run we're talking about, he's just trying to get some longevity off of it. It was boots, so that's good. It wasn't like a, what was it, scope lens or whatever to try to get crits and fish for the crits or whatever. But we decided to go into Hippowdon here, try to get the Sand Chip back up, try to get a Toxic off, at least try to whittle it down through Toxic, because there's nothing else on the team that really can deal with these Air Slashes well. We brought a lot of physical bulk, not so much special bulk, which definitely wasn't advantageous in this matchup. And then exactly what we see happen from a lot of Togekisses ends up happening. We get back-to-back flinches, and then the last, all he needs is one more to knock off Hippowdon. Looking back at this point, I'm pretty tilted, gonna be honest with you. I am absolutely losing my mind because I know exactly what's gonna happen, mainly because I've used this Togekiss since Gen 4 a million times, and I used to do this same thing. And if there's nothing you can do to stop it, it is impossible. Corsola really can't do anything to it, especially with the potential for these flinches. We get one miss there, which is great, but at this point I'm just trying to strength trap to try to stay alive. But that really doesn't matter because these Air Slashes are going to keep coming, and I'm going to keep getting flinched. So the disable from the Curse Body is, it's nice, but at this point Corsola is basically dead. Togekiss is at full health, and even after this Will-O-Wisp, nothing's really gonna be able to stop it from continuing. We want to do some damage to it, but knowing that it has Roost, there's really nothing I can do. And there we go. He was just basically waiting out that disable. So that probably means that Air Slash was his only attacking move. And that's why he was, just kind of waiting out that disable. But at this point, he can just keep spamming that. We do force it out with Toxapex, but in all honesty, he could have just sat there and keep clicking Air Slash. But we've already used up half of his moves, so he probably didn't want to use it all up. But in all honesty, we're in our last 3 Pokemon. He could have just kept clicking that. Gardevoir comes out. It copies our Regenerator, which is actually hilarious. But it is Toxic. But at this point, there's really not much I can do. Psychic crit is what it is. It just it doesn't really matter. We were switching into that, so that was still gonna hurt. Machamp's gonna take 1,000,000% from the Psychic, and so is Toxapex. So we, it was kind of our fault. We brought a team that we hadn't had enough experience with. I kind of went in pretty blind, um, and it wasn't really wise of me to just say, hey, give me a team and I'll just use it blindly. I should have brought something else a little more comfortable with, but either way, this is a really good team he's got here, especially since I don't have hazard removal. There was really not much I can do um, to prevent all this from happening. Once Shuckle got up its rocks and webs, Togekiss could just come in and spam Air Slash because it knew all my mobs were going to be slower. Machamp having Bullet Punch, it probably would have helped if I brought it in on the Togekiss, but depending on that Togekiss's set, it might not have knocked it out. It might not have been an OHKO anyways, which means I would have just instantly evaporated from one Air Slash. So, obviously I could have played better also. But I think, yeah, bringing a team out was probably a little more familiar with would have definitely helped too. But in any case, congrats to San Isidro for moving on to the finals. And, we are in the third place game. I got to play my buddy Mario, so it's always fun to play him again. And we'll see if we end up in third place or fourth place in this tournament. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.